Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look what is happening in India and in the world. China's military test fired 2 missiles into the South China Sea, including a carrier killer. Military analysts suggest might have been deployed to attack on US forces, a newspaper reported Thursday. The DF-26B and DF-21D missiles fired Wednesday targeted an area between the southern island province of Hainan and the Paracel Islands, a newspaper of Hong Kong reported, citing unidentified sources close to the Chinese military. The Ministries of Defense and Foreign Affairs in Beijing did not immediately respond to requests for confirmation. Disputes over control of the South China Sea, one of the world's busiest trade routes, are a growing irritant in Beijing's relations with Washington and its southern neighbors. Wednesday's launches followed Chinese complaints that a US U-2 spy plane entered a no-fly zone declared by Beijing during a military drill off its northern coast. The DF-21 is unusually accurate and was dubbed carrier killer by military analysts who believe it was developed to target US aircraft carriers that might be involved in a potential conflict with China. Beijing has spent heavily over the past 2 decades on trying to develop missiles, fighter aircrafts, nuclear submarines, and other weapons to allow China to expand its military reach beyond shores. Heavy flooding has killed at least 100 people and injured scores of others as heavy sensational rains drenched northern and eastern Afghanistan, officials said Wednesday. Annual heavy rains compounded by mudslides often threaten remote areas of Afghanistan where infrastructure is poor. Summer often brings heavy rainfall in northern and eastern parts of the country, leading to floods that leave hundreds dead every year. State Minister for Disaster Management Ghulam Bahauddin Jilani said that in northern Parwan province, water inundated the central city of Charikar, where the health ministry said the local hospital was partially destroyed and many of the injured were being transferred to the capital Kabul. The provincial spokeswoman Wahida Shahkar said the number of casualties may rise as people and rescue teams were still working to locate people buried under destroyed houses. The head of the provincial hospital, Abdul Qasim, said several children were among the dead and some of the injured are in critical condition. Shakar said the flooding started in the central part of the province overnight, following heavy rains and destroying many homes. She called on the government to deliver aid and provide immediate support for workers digging through mud to reach those who were trapped. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani, in a statement, ordered aid be delivered to Parwan and other provinces while expressing his condolences to the victims' families. The United States on Wednesday announced sanctions and restrictions on 24 Chinese companies and associated officials for taking part in building artificial islands in disputed waters in the South China Sea. The 24 state-owned firms include subsidiaries of construction giant China Communications Construction Company, telecommunications firms, and a unit of the China Shipbuilding Group. The US Commerce Department said the companies enabled China to construct and militarize disputed outposts in the South China Sea. Since 2013, the China has used its state-owned enterprises to dredge and reclaim more than 3,000 acres on disputed features in the South China Sea, destabilizing the region trampling on the sovereign rights of its neighbors and causing untold environmental devastation, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in a statement. The 24 companies were placed on the Commerce Department's entity list, which allows it to block exports of the US goods and materials to them. In addition, Pompeo said individuals associated with the South China Sea operations will be unable to obtain visas to visit the United States. The names of the individuals were not made available. Hurricane Laura pounded the Gulf Coast for hours with ferocious wind, torrential rains, and rising seawater as it rode ashore over southwestern Louisiana near the Texas border in the United States on Thursday as a life-threatening storm. Laura made landfall just before 1 a.m. as a Category 4 storm, packing winds of 150 miles per hour in the small town of Cameroon, Louisiana, the National Hurricane Center said. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's hurricane-chasing airplane gave people a rare glimpse of the conditions inside Laura as it passed through the hurricane. A time-lapse video of the journey was shared by Nick Underwood of the NOAA on Twitter. The NOAA has been tweeting about the hurricane's movement and the stunning images its various bodies captured ahead of the landfall. More than 290,000 homes and businesses were without power in Texas and Louisiana, as near constant lightning provided the only light for some. Officials say search and rescue missions will begin as soon as conditions allow, along with damage assessments. Forecasters warned that the hurricane could push a massive wall of water 40 miles inland from the sea. The United States will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapon, Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris said on Wednesday, asserting that if voted to be power, a Biden administration will work with allies to strengthen the Obama-era nuclear deal with Tehran and push back its other destabilizing actions. Training her gun at the Trump administration on the matter, the Indian origin senator said that nuclear deal, as we all know, blocked Iran's pathways to a nuclear weapon and it was working, as was verified by the international inspectors and the US intelligence community. But Donald Trump withdrew from it, promising a better deal and cowed Iran. But instead, Iran is reviving up its nuclear activity and becoming more provocative. Let me be clear, we will not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. We will continue to ensure that Israel has the unbreakable support of the United States, Harris said. She said Joe Biden actually took historic steps as vice president to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. She was responding to questions during a fundraiser. JCPOA, or Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, commonly known as Iran nuclear deal, was signed during the Obama era. His successor, President Donald Trump, withdrew from JCPOA. Harris, the first-term senator from California who serves on the House Intelligence Committee, said that she believes that the US is more isolated than ever from its allies. At least a third of world's school children, which works to around 463 million, could not access remote learning since schools have been shut down because of the raging coronavirus outbreak since early this year, according to a new report released by UNICEF on Thursday. The report has been released amid several states in India have started taking steps on reopening schools despite the contagion. Around 1.5 billion school children are affected by chlorus during lockdown across the world, said UNICEF's Remote Learning Reachability Report, which underlines the limitations of remote learning and exposes deep inequalities in access and prioritize reopening schools safely. In India, at least 1.5 million schools are closed because of the pandemic, which is affecting 286 million students from pre-primary to secondary levels, of which 49% are girls. Another 6 million girls and boys were already out of schools prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to UNICEF. Globally, 49% of school children are in their primary classes. Reopening of schools is a challenge in India because of the large size of classrooms and poor infrastructure at several institutions. Many of these schools have limited washrooms and cramped canteens, where maintaining social distancing norms is not always possible. The officials in United States named the white police officer on Wednesday who shot 29-year-old Jacob Blake in the back. The incident has led to a fresh wave of protest across the country, which had started after the shooting of George Floyd. Officer Rustin Shansky, a 7-year veteran of the police force in Kenosha, Wisconsin, shot Blake 7 times at point-blank range while 3 of his children watched in the Midwestern city. Blake survived but may be paralyzed for life. The Wisconsin Department of Justice also gave the official account of Blake's shooting for the first time on Wednesday, saying he had a knife in possession when Shesky opened fire. Mr. Blake walked around his vehicle, opened the driver's side door, and leaned forward while holding onto Mr. Blake's shirt. Officer Rustin Shesky fired his service weapon 7 times. Officer Shesky fired the weapon into Mr. Blake's back, the department said in a statement. It was not clear from the statement if the knife recovered from inside the car was in Blake's hand when he was shot. The US Department of Justice announced late on Wednesday that it was opening a civil rights investigation into Blake's shooting. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey imposed a curfew following what he described as mass looting of businesses, destruction of property, and unrest. Authorities also said there was misinformation spread in relation to the death of the suspect. It's time for a short break. We'll join you in a short while.
Wasabi up tundi fan with the cooler number 1 Ika Cisco more fun unte cooler number 1 Ika don't run from the sun unte Kinstra number 1
जी मामा बस अभी पहुंची हूँ पता नहीं इतने दिनों में घर का क्या हाल होगा I don't believe this तुमने फिर से
जो देखे वो दीवाना।
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. Further delay in conducting medical and engineering entrance exams NEET and JEE will lead to a zero academic year and any quick alternative to the crucial exams, will dilute the quality of education and have cascading effects, according to directors of several Indian institutes of technology. Amid the chorus for postponement of the two exams in view of the rising COVID-19 cases, the IIT directors appeal to students to trust the institutions conducting the exam. The pandemic has already disrupted the academic plans of many students and institutions, and we don't see the virus going away anytime soon. We should not let this be a zero academic year, as it might have consequences on the bright future of several students. Ajit K. Chaturvedi, Director IIT Roorkee, said. He also said students and their parents need to have faith in the system. The decision to conduct these exams has been taken after considering every aspect of the current situation. The government has been ensuring that all necessary arrangements are made to safeguard the health and safety of the students. Delaying the exams would have a cascading effect, so we should come together in understanding its importance and support the system in conducting it seamlessly, he added. Tiwari, director of IIT Kharagpur. The exams have a global reputation for seeking excellence and are considered one of the toughest and prestigious examinations in the world. A quick alternative to these tests will certainly not be as gratifying as competing for this examination by all fair means. The Supreme Court on Thursday reserved its verdict on a plea filed by businessman Vijay Mallya, who was sought review of its 2017 order holding him guilty of contempt of court for transferring $40 million to his children. A bench comprising Justices U. Lalit and Ashok Bhushan reserved its order after hearing arguments in the case. The apex court had in June directed its registry to explain as to why Mallya's review petition had not been listed before the court. For the last 3 years, it had directed the registry to furnish all details, including names of officials who had dealt with the file concerning the review petition in the last 3 years. Mallya, who is an accused in a bank loan default case of over 9,000 crores involving his defunct Kingfisher Airlines, is presently in the United Kingdom. The apex court's 2017 order had come on a plea by consortium of banks led by SBI, which had said that Mallya had allegedly transferred $40 million received from British firm Diageo to his children in flagrant violation of various judicial orders. It was dealing with pleas of lending banks seeking contempt action and a direction to Mallya to deposit $40 million received from offshore firm Diageo, respectively, with the banks. The goods and services tax collection has been severely impacted due to coronavirus pandemic this year, says Revenue Secretary after GST Council meeting on Thursday. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman held 41st Goods and Service Tax Council meeting today. The states were guaranteed payment for any loss of revenue in the first 5 years of GST implementation from July 1, 2017 under the Central Goods and Services Tax Act. However, due to the COVID-19 outbreak, the compensation cess collection have jumped. At the meeting, two options of compensating states were discussed, including borrowing from the Reserve Bank of India. The Finance Minister said that the options discussed for meeting GST shortfall are only for the current fiscal. The GST Council will look at the issue again in April next year. AG's clear opinion was that compensation gap cannot be met from India's consolidated fund. Option 1 presented to GST Council was to provide a special window to states in consultation with RBI to provide rupees 97,000 crores at a reasonable interest rate, Finance Secretary Ajay Pandey said. Option 2 presented to GST Council was that the entire GST compensation gap of rupees 2,35,000 crore of this year can be met by states in consultation with RBI. These options will be sent to states for a view within 7 days and will apply for this fiscal year only, Finance Secretary said. We may have another GST meet soon, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said. While addressing an event on making India self-reliant in defence sector through video conference, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on Thursday that government aims to increase defence manufacturing in India. For many years, India has been one of the biggest defence importers. When India got independence, it had great capability in defence manufacturing and ecosystem of defence manufacturing established over 100 years. Unfortunately, this subject could not get requisite attention, the Prime Minister said at Atmanirbhar Bharat Defence Industry Outreach webinar. The Prime Minister further said that a decision has been taken to permit up to 74% FDI in the defence manufacturing through automatic route. Efforts being made to boost defence production, develop new technology and give big role to private players in defence sector, PM Modi said. Import embargo on certain defence equipment aimed at giving boost to Indian defence industry, the Prime Minister said. We also saw labour reforms recently. Reform exercise not going to stop now, PM Modi said at the webinar. Our resolve for Atmanirbhar Bharat not inward looking but for making India capable and boosting global peace and economy. The S&P BSE Sensex and NSE Nifty 50 indexes gained for the fifth straight session, led by strength in HDFC, Axis Bank, Mahindra & Mahindra, SBI and ICICI. The benchmarks traded firm for most part of the day, but erased gains to end on a flat note owing to expiry of August future and option contracts. The Sensex traded in a band of 280 points and Nifty 50 index touched an intraday high of 11,617 and low of 11,540. The Sensex ended 40 points higher at 39,113 and Nifty 50 index rose 10 points to close at 11,559. For the August series, the Sensex rose 3.65% and Nifty rose 4.11%. State-run lenders, auto, pharma and banking shares also witnessed buying interest. On the other hand, FMCG shares witnessed mild selling pressure. Mid and small cap shares ended mixed as Nifty Mid Cap 100 Index ended on a flat note, while Nifty Small Cap 100 Index rose 0.53%. IndusInd Bank was top Nifty gainer. The stock rose 6.5% to 605. Mahindra & Mahindra, Tata Motors, SBI, Grasim, HDFC, Sun Pharma, Axis Bank and Maruti Suzuki also rose 1.5 to 4.2% each. On the flip side, Reliance Industries was top Nifty loser. The stock fell 1.35% to close at 2,108. ONGC, Bajaj Auto, Z Entertainment, Coal India, Adani Ports, Ultratech and Shree Cements were also among the losers. The Delhi High Court on Thursday stayed proceedings in a case under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code against Anil Ambani in a matter related to personal guarantee given by him against a loan taken by Reliance Communications Limited and Reliance Infratel Limited from State Bank of India. The court also barred Mr. Ambani from disposing of any of his assets. Earlier this month, the NCLT had appointed a bankruptcy administrator to verify SBI's claim that Mr. Ambani offered about 1200 crore of personal guarantees to seek the loan. Following the order, Mr. Ambani had filed a plea with the Delhi High Court challenging it. On Thursday, the Delhi High Court bench of Justice Vipin Sanghi and Justice Rajneesh Bhatnagar also issued a notice to Mr. Ambani's plea challenging the validity of the section pertaining to personal guarantee and bankruptcy and asked whether there is any enabling provision in the IBC for such an order. The next date of hearing of the case has been rescheduled for October 6. The standoff with China in eastern Ladakh is surely the most serious situation after 1962, Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said, referring to the 1962 Indo-China War. This is surely the most serious situation after 1962. In fact, after 45 years, we have had military casualties on this border. The quantum of forces currently deployed by both sides at the LAC is also unprecedented, Mr. Jaishankar said in an interview. India and China have had several rounds of military and diplomatic meetings, with only limited disengagement and having taken place in parts of eastern Ladakh. The foreign minister said that India has conveyed to China clearly that peace and tranquility in the border areas are the basis for relationship between the two neighbors. If we look back at the last 3 decades, this is quite self-evident. Indian and Chinese armies are locked in a tense standoff in eastern Ladakh for over 3.5 months, despite multiple rounds of diplomatic and military talks, Mr. Jaishankar said. The foreign minister said that a solution to the standoff with China must be predicated on honoring all agreements and understandings without attempting to alter the status quo unilaterally. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert, be positive, be safe.